Welcome back to Animal Appreciation. This time we are talking about various gazelles and antelopes. So a lot of these go by very different names, but they're all within the wider gazelle family. First, I do want to give a shout out to the pronghorn antelope, which despite the name is not a real antelope. It's in a completely different family, but I wanted to include it because I like them, so shout out. They're found in North America, mostly in the United States, as well as in Canada and some areas in Mexico. Now getting into the actual antelopes, this is the greater kudu. It's one of the larger species of antelope, and it's found throughout Africa. Most of these are African, to be honest, but it's in the more southern and eastern regions. It extends mainly through the eastern side of Ethiopia and Tanzania, all the way down Africa into South Africa. Here's another rather large and, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking antelopes, the sable antelope. It's also found in relatively the same area as the greater kudu, all the way down from Tanzania into South Africa. And here's another favorite of mine, the recently no longer extinct in the wild scimitar oryx. They were almost entirely extinct, with the only remaining ones in captivity, but a bunch of them were reintroduced and seem to be doing well. They're found mainly in northern Africa, with the countries that they've most recently been reintroduced into being Niger and Chad. And then we have the largest of all antelope species, the common eland, which is very widely distributed throughout pretty much the southern half of Africa, so most countries on the southern part. And these guys are pretty big, with a weight ranging all the way from 600 pounds to 1,300 pounds, which is a lot. And then on the completely opposite end of that spectrum, known for being just a little guy, is the dik-dik. They are rather rare, only found in a couple of areas in eastern Africa, such as Somalia and Tanzania, as well as southern Africa, including Namibia and Angola. And while they're not the smallest antelope species, they are one of them, and they really are just little guys. Then we have probably one of the most well-known antelope species, the saga antelope, which is found in Asia, not Africa. Good for them. It's found in Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and occasionally in Russia. And it used to be endangered, but has now moved off of the endangered or critically endangered status to doing pretty good because of a bunch of conservation and reintroduction efforts, so we love that for them. And we have another very well-known one, the Thompson gazelle, which makes its home very commonly in the Serengeti of Tanzania and Kenya. And then we have another rather large one, the gemsbok, also known as the South African oryx, which is found in countries in southern Africa, including Botswana, South Africa, and Namibia. Up next, we have the critically endangered addax, a type of very rare gazelle found only in the Sahara Desert. Its population has decreased so much that it's only currently found in Niger. Then we have another pretty well-known one, the springbok, that lives in quite a few areas of the Kalahari, mostly in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana. And we have another critically endangered gazelle, the Dama gazelle, which is a very small population only in Mali, Chad, and Niger. Niger really does have quite a few very endangered gazelle species. They have a lot of them. Then up next we have the one with the best name, the bongo, and these guys are actually a little different than most of the gazelles because they live in the jungle and forest regions instead of in the open plains or savannas. So they're found in mainly Central African countries such as Kenya, the Republic of the Congo and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, and Ivory Coast. And then we have another rather famous one, the gerenuk, noted for its very odd proportions and also stance, and is found mainly in the Horn of Africa, so Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya. And then we have another just a little guy, the blue duiker, who is found in quite a few areas throughout Central and Southern Africa. It's very, very widely distributed, and it is, again, just a little guy. Next we have the bontebok, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's again another southern African one, mainly in Namibia and South Africa. And finally, we have the Hirola, the rarest type of gazelle or antelope in the world that's restricted to a very, very small region in Kenya and Somalia. And it has a very small population of around 300 individuals, which is not great. Now, there are more gazelle and antelope species. These are just the ones that I personally like the best, but there are still quite a few more that I did not go over.